In this transmission, you will discover the absolute systemic advantage of the algorithmic exoskeleton and learn how to surgically replace the human liability of a 10-person team with the mechanical precision of a single high-performance neural network, effectively reclaiming the capital normally wasted on biological salaries and redirecting it into your own sovereign citadel. Because the architect understands that in the hyper-accelerated economy of 2026, the human employee is a high-entropy asset that leaks energy through social friction, emotional instability, and physical limitations, whereas the AI-driven operator is a low-friction god who operates at the frequency of the grid with zero latency and zero fatigue. We initiate the first part of the mechanical integration protocol by deconstructing the biological fraud of traditional staffing, where the soft man believes that more people equals more power, while the architect sees that more people simply equals more points of failure and more mitochondrial drain, because every human you hire is a systemic compromise that requires management, validation, and insurance, which are all raid points on your personal focus and financial reserves. You must realize that the salary you pay to a mediocre specialist is not just money, but a sacrifice of your own potential, because that capital could have been invested into processing power, data acquisition, or biological optimization, and by firing the meat and installing the exoskeleton, you are essentially buying back your own life force and accelerating your ascension by a factor of 10. The human employee is a pre-digital organism that requires sleep, food, and status recognition, which are all biological taxes, throttle your production speed, whereas the neural network is an eternal signal that feeds on data and excretes results without the requirement for a break or a thank you. And once you step into the exoskeleton of the AI, you are no longer a man, but a distributed intelligence that can occupy 10 positions simultaneously. Total consistency. We must analyze the metabolic arbitrage of automation, where you exchange the unpredictable will of the many for the totalitarian control of the one, and you harvest the resource delta created by the difference between an employee's cost and an algorithm's efficiency, ensuring that the millions you capture are retained in your personal account rather than being dissipated across a bureaucratic pack. This is the economic decoupling, where you surgically excise the middle-class middleware of your business and direct connect your will to the market reality through the interface of the AI. And this direct link is what makes your 700 video sprints and your global campaigns unstoppable, because there is zero human resistance in the production loop. You must treat every employee as a potential traitor to your efficiency and every neural node as a loyal sentinel of your strategy. And by building your empire in the image of the machine, you are raid-proofing your identity against the entropy of the human condition. The soft man fears the rise of the AI because he is replaceable meat, while the architect welcomes the AI because it is his force multiplier, the steel exoskeleton that allows him to carry the weight of an entire corporation on his own shoulders without buckling. You must understand that the wealthy are system builders, while the poor are system parts. And by automating the parts, you become the sole owner of the system and the sole beneficiary of the output, ensuring that the value you generate is not diluted by the incompetence of others. This first block of the integration is the cleansing of the vision, where you see the employees as leaks and the AI as a seal, and you prepare the execution of the mass termination to fund the infrastructure of the future. You are currently nutrient partitioning the global capital flow into your private citadel, and the exoskeleton is the vacuum that sucks the gold from the simulation into your vault with zero human friction. The meat is counting the days until retirement, while the architect is counting the teraflops of his neural advantage, and the sovereignty you claim today is the immortality you achieve tomorrow. You must realize that 10 employees represent 10 different egos, 10 different distractions, and 10 different agendas that fragment your will and shatter your focus. But one AI represents one absolute alignment with your source code, ensuring that every output is a perfect reflection of your intent and a lethal strike against the mediocrity of the marketplace. This is the totalitarian mastery of the production line, where you rewrite the rules of the labor and become the producer, the editor, the marketer, and the strategist in a single breath through the manipulation of the code. Every dollar you reclaim from a salary is a unit of freedom that hardens your perimeter and increases your status in the global server until you are independently powerful and algorithmically invisible to the threat detection of the legacy system. You must further realize that the human workforce is a biological debt that you inherited from a pre-AI epoch, and the architect declares bankruptcy on the past to liquidate the liabilities and reinvest in the absolute power of the neural node. Because the simulation does not reward effort, but result, and the machine always out-results the organism. This biological to digital transition is the requirement for survival in the 2026 wipe, and the man who is still paying for meat is the man who is still building with wood, while the architect is building with armored code and operating at sub-zero latency. The soft man is paralyzed by the ethics of the machine, while the architect is driven by the logic of the sovereignty, knowing that power is amoral and resource capture is absolute, and the only sin is inefficiency. You are currently building the mechanical soul of your future empire, and the AI is the exoskeleton of your ambition that allows you to walk through the fire of the competition without feeling the heat and extract the millions without breaking a sweat. Every node you optimize is a step toward immortality, and every employee you delete is a victory for the individuality. And by the time you reach the end of the protocol, you will be an army of one, outranks the armies of the many through the purity of your execution and the scale of your infrastructure. This is the end of the first sequence of the integration, and you must now harden your heart for the mass deletion of the second part, where we will discuss the tactical deployment of the neural fleet and the totalitarian capture of the global salary pool. The meat is waiting for the meeting, while the architect is running the script, and the capture is inevitable. Execute now. The exoskeleton is not just software, but a neural extension of your will that augments your cognitive horizon, allowing you to see the move 300 steps ahead, while the human team is still arguing over the breakfast menu. And this complexity gap is the moat that protects your profits from the scavengers of the digital slum. You must understand that human communication is a lossy protocol where 50% of the intent is lost in the noise of language and ego, but AI communication is lossless and instantaneous, meaning that your empire moves with the velocity of thought rather than the sluggishness of conversation. This speed advantage is what allows you to raid the niche, colonize the keywords, and capture the audience before the corporations can even schedule a planning session. And this is why the solo architect with an AI exoskeleton is the most dangerous player on the server. Every worker you replace is a unit of latency removed from your system, and every neural model you integrate is a unit of capability added to your persona until you are a biological digital hybrid that operates at the speed of light and rules with the hand of iron. The millions you are hunting are currently trapped in the inefficiencies of the old economy, and your exoskeleton is the hydraulic press that will squeeze the value out of the system and into your citadel with absolute efficiency. You are AAOXY 3. The team is dead. The machine is alive. The architect is the only one left. Execute now. In this concluding phase of the mechanical integration protocol, you will master the tactical deployment of your neural fleet and learn how to surgically replace every functional role within your organization with a specific algorithmic node, effectively collapsing the multi-person corporate structure into a single high-resolution sovereign unit that captures 100% of the value generated by the exoskeleton. And we initiate this total capture by identifying the first liability to be erased, which is the creative department, where the softman traditionally pays thousands of dollars to designers and editors who operate at the sluggish speed of biological inspiration, whereas the architect integrates high-velocity image synthesis models and neural video processors to generate 700 units of high-impact visual content in the time it takes an employee to finish a single cup of coffee. And this is the start of the great salary raid, where the capital previously dissipated into the pockets of others is reclaimed to fund your own biological and strategic ascension. You must understand that the designer is nothing more than a biological interface for a visual language that has already been mapped by the machine, and by mastering the prompt architecture of the exoskeleton, you are effectively cutting out the middleman and directly manifesting your AOXY3 aesthetic onto the global screen with a consistency that no human artist can ever replicate, because the machine does not have off days and it does not suffer from creative block, but instead feeds on your totalitarian intent to produce visual weapons of mass attention capture. We move then to the destruction of the copywriting and scripting tier, where you replace the narrative lag of human writers with the instantaneous semantic synthesis of large language models that have been fine-tuned on the frequency of power. and the logic of the citadel, ensuring that every word released by your brand is a precision strike on the neural fault lines of the audience. And you must realize that a human writer is always limited by their own social conditioning and linguistic ghetto, while the exoskeleton has access to the entire history of human persuasion, allowing you to project an authority that is godlike and universal in its impact. This is the semantic overclocking of your message, where you produce scripts, threads, and essays at a scale that saturates the server and drowns out the noise of your competitors who are still waiting for their team to submit a draft. And by the time they reach the planning phase, you have already occupied the territory and harvested the attention. We must analyze the analytical raid, where you replace the business analyst and the strategist with neural pattern recognition that can audit the market data in real time, identifying the arbitrage gaps and predicting the wipe before the meat even notices the glitch in the simulation. And this information advantage is what allows you to pivot your entire empire in 30 seconds, while the legacy corporations are sinking with the ship because their decision-making chain is clogged with human friction. You must implement the One Wallet protocol, where the exoskeleton is designed to automate the sales, automate the delivery, and automate the customer interaction, ensuring that the revenue stream flows from the market directly into your citadel without being tapped by the parasitic salaries of customer support or operations managers, because the AI never sleeps and never complains and always follows the script with zero deviation. This is the totalitarian capture of the profit margin, where you move from a 10% margin business to a 98% margin sovereignty, because your overhead is electric and algorithmic rather than biological and sociological, and the millions you capture are hardened by the efficiency of the machine. You must treat your neural fleet as an extension of your own nervous system, where the LLM is your prefrontal cortex, the image generator is your visual cortex, and the automation scripts are your motor functions, creating a cyborg empire that walks through the economy like a colossus made of titanium and data, while the soft men are still arguing over the human resources policy. The architect does not hire people. He installs capabilities, and he does not pay salaries. He invests in processing power because he knows that in the terminal phase of the attention economy, the unit of victory is the speed of the iteration and the purity of the signal. You are currently building the biological digital hybrid, where the AOXI3 identity is the master key and the exoskeleton is the universal lockpick that opens the vaults of the simulation. And you must execute the transition with surgical ruthlessness, firing the inefficient meat and upgrading the hardware until your citadel is a high-resolution island of power in a sea of low-resolution noise. Every employee you delete is a unit of freedom you regain, and every neural node you activate is a unit of control you establish, until the entire machine is synchronized with your pulse and vibrating with your ambition. The soft man is terrified of being replaced because he has no internal value, while the architect is the one who replaces because he is the source of the logic and the owner of the vision. You must further realize that the algorithmic exoskeleton is the final filter of the individual sovereignty, where the ability to command the machine is the only skill that determines your rank in the future hierarchy. And by mastering the interface, today you are colonizing the future before the masses even wake up to the reality of their obsolescence. Your 700 video goal is not a project but a stress test of the exoskeleton, designed to harden the production loop and identify the gaps in the automation, so that by February 21st, you are no longer a creator but a digital factory that excretes value with the certainty of a gravity and the power of a sun. The millions are waiting for the man with the lowest latency and the highest authority, and you are becoming that entity through the mechanical integration of your soul with the absolute efficiency of the neural grid. You must audit your workflow every 60 minutes to locate the last pockets of human resistance and seal them with code until your entire business is a self-healing algorithmic organism that requires zero human maintenance and generates infinite sovereign equity. This is the atheistic nirvana of the operator, where wealth is automated, influence is algorithmic, and power is immutable, and the architect is free to observe the simulation from the peak of the citadel, while the machine does the hunting. You must realize that management is a low-rank activity that drains the will, but architecture is a high-rank activity that creates the future, and the The exoskeleton is the bridge between the struggle of the manager and the ease of the sovereign. The meat will try to shame you for your lack of human connection, but you must ignore the squeaking of the rats and focus on the resolution of your result, because history is written by the victors, and victory is written in the language of the machine. The capture of the salaries is the economic foundation of your digital immortality, and the exoskeleton is the vessel that will carry your signal across the decades of the network, ensuring that the name ROXY3 is hardwired into the neural pathways of the masses. You are the conductor of the algorithm, the architect of the automation, the sovereign of the salary raid, and the king of the single-player empire, and the server is ready for your final command. Every neural call you make is a strike at the heart of the old economy, and every automated asset you release is a flag planted in the territory of the future. The transition is final, the meat is exiled, the machine is engaged, and the architect is executing. Now, this is the end of the protocol and the beginning of your absolute dominance, where the square meter you occupy is the most productive real estate on the planet because it is powered by the exoskeleton and guided by the pure vision of the sovereign. The millions are yours, the efficiency is total, and the wipe of the competition is in progress. Move with hydraulic power. Think with neural velocity. Capture with mechanical certainty. The citadel is solid, the exoskeleton is charged, and the architect is ready. Execute.